The lawyer's words still echo in my head. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Patterson. There's nothing left." My husband's medical bills had swallowed everything. The house, the savings, even the small life insurance policy barely covered his funeral. At 62, I found myself starting over with a part-time job at the Riverside Post Office in a town where I'd lived my entire life but suddenly felt like a stranger. The post office was one of those old brick buildings that smelled like paper and floor wax. I worked the counter 3 days a week, sorting mail the other 2. The pay was modest, but it was something. My supervisor, a kind woman named Ellen, had taken pity on me when I applied. "We don't usually hire at your age," she'd said gently, "but I knew your husband. He was a good man." I'd nodded, unable to speak, grateful for this lifeline. That's where I met Rosa. She came in at 5 every evening to clean, moving quietly through the building with her cart of supplies. She was maybe 55, with graying hair pulled back in a tight bun and hands that showed years of hard work. She kept her eyes down, spoke very little, and seemed to live in her own world. Most of the staff barely acknowledged her existence. But I noticed things about Rosa. I noticed how she saved the sandwich from her lunch, wrapping half in napkins to take home. I noticed how she wore the same 2 outfits, alternating them throughout the week. I noticed the tired lines around her eyes and how she sometimes pressed her hand to her lower back when she thought no one was looking. One day, about 2 months into my job, I stayed late to finish some paperwork. Rosa was mopping the floor near my station. On impulse, I pulled out the extra burrito I'd bought at lunch. I'd been getting 2 lately, telling myself the second was for dinner, but I wasn't fooling anyone. I was lonely, and eating gave me something to do. "Rosa," I called softly. She looked up, startled, like a deer caught in headlights. "Would you like this? I bought too much." She hesitated, her eyes moving from me to the burrito and back. I cannot. Please, it'll just go to waste. My eyes are always bigger than my stomach these days." I smiled, hoping to ease her discomfort. She took it slowly, her fingers careful not to touch mine. "Thank you, Mrs. Patterson. Call me Dorothy." After that, it became a routine. Every Tuesday and Thursday when I worked late, I'd bring an extra burrito. Rosa would accept it with a quiet "Gracias, Dorothy," and we'd sometimes exchange a few words about the weather or how our day had been. Nothing deep, nothing personal. Just 2 women acknowledging each other's existence in a world that often made us both feel invisible. I learned small things about her. She sent money back to her daughter in Guadalajara every month. Her grandson was sick, needed surgery they couldn't afford. She'd been in America for 20 years, working, saving, hoping. She'd been a teacher once, back in Mexico, but her credentials didn't transfer. So she cleaned offices, grateful for the steady work. I told her a little about myself, too. About my husband, Tom, and how I missed him every day. About our son, David, who'd died 15 years ago in a car accident at 25. I didn't mention how that loss had nearly destroyed me, how Tom and I had clung to each other through that darkness, how losing Tom felt like losing David all over again. The weeks turned into months. Summer faded into fall. The burrito routine continued. It was such a small thing, costing me maybe $5 twice a week. But Rosa's grateful smile became a bright spot in my gray days. It felt good to help someone, even in such a tiny way. Then came that Tuesday in late October. I remember because Halloween decorations were going up around town, orange and black everywhere, a mocking cheerfulness that felt out of place in my life. I was at the counter sorting a stack of packages when Rosa's cleaning cart appeared beside me, earlier than usual. She wasn't supposed to start for another hour. "Dorothy." Her voice was urgent, barely above a whisper. I looked up, surprised by her tone. Her face was pale, her eyes wide with something that looked like fear. "Rosa? What's wrong?" She glanced around nervously, making sure we were alone. The office was nearly empty, just one clerk in the back room. Rosa reached into her pocket and pulled out a photograph, the edges worn as if she'd been gripping it tightly. She pushed it across the counter toward me. "Your grandson," she whispered. "He is in danger. You must find him today." I stared at the photo. It showed a young man, maybe 19 or 20, with dark hair and a lean face. He was looking away from the camera, caught in an unguarded moment. There was something familiar about the set of his jaw, the way he held his shoulders. "Rosa, I don't have a grandson. My son died 15 years ago. He wasn't married, didn't have any children." "He did." Rosa's voice was firm now, certain. "This boy. His name is Ryan. He is David's son." My heart lurched. The room seemed to tilt. That's not possible. David would have told me. Maybe he did not know. Maybe the mother never told him. But Dorothy, you must listen. This boy, he is in very bad trouble. Today, tonight, something terrible will happen to him if you do not find him. How do you... I couldn't form the words. My mind was reeling. How do you know about this? How did you get this picture? Rosa's hands were shaking. I was cleaning the bathroom. Yesterday, late, 2 men, they did not know I was in the stall. They were talking. One showed the other this photo on his phone. Said the kid's making his first run tonight, Interstate 40 to Phoenix, cars already loaded. The other one, he laughed, said Betty don't even know he's carrying 50 grand worth of crystal until we cut him loose at the border. My blood ran cold. Crystal. Methamphetamine. I'd seen enough news stories about drug trafficking to know what that meant. Dorothy, I have seen this before. In Mexico. They find young boys with no family, no one to ask questions. They promise them money, a future. Then they use them as, how do you say, mules? Make them drive across state lines with drugs. If the boy gets caught, they disappear. If he delivers, sometimes they kill him anyway. No witnesses. But why do you think this is David's son? Rosa pulled out her phone, an old model with a cracked screen. She scrolled through photos until she found one, then held it up. It was a screenshot of a Facebook profile. Ryan Mitchell, age 19, Phoenix, Arizona. In his profile picture, he was smiling, and suddenly I saw it. The resemblance was striking. He had David's eyes, David's smile, the same slight dimple in his left cheek. I searched after I heard the name, Rosa said. Ryan Mitchell. One of the men. He said the kid's father died in Ohio years ago. Car accident. I remembered you said David died in car accident. I remembered you said his name. So I searched. I found this Ryan. I see his face, and Dorothy, I see David. I see your son. I couldn't breathe. The post office seemed to shrink around me. If this is real, Rosa, if this is really David's son, how do I find him? How do I stop this? The men, they said they are meeting him at 8 p.m. at the old Riverside Motel on Highway 52, room 114. They will give him the keys to the car, tell him the address in Phoenix. He will drive tonight. I looked at the clock. It was 5:47 p.m. I had just over 2 hours. I have to go to the police. No. Rosa grabbed my wrist, her grip surprisingly strong. If police come, the men will know someone told. They will disappear. They will hurt Ryan for talking. You must go to Ryan first. Warn him. Get him away from there. Then police. But I don't even know if he'll believe me. I'm a stranger claiming to be his grandmother. Rosa squeezed my hand. You will find a way. I know you will. You have a mother's heart. A grandmother's heart. He will see it in your eyes. I stood there, frozen, my mind spinning. Could this be real? Could I have a grandson I'd never known about? And if I did, could I really save him from these men? Dorothy. Rosa's voice was gentle now. That burrito you bring me every week? You think it is a small thing. But it saved my grandson's life. The money I save, I send home. Last month, he had surgery. He is alive because of what you gave me. Now I give you this information. Maybe it saves your grandson too. This is how kindness works. It goes round and round. Tears stung my eyes. Thank you, Rosa. Thank you. I grabbed my purse and keys, my hands shaking so badly I could barely hold them. As I rushed toward the door, Rosa called after me. Dorothy, be careful. These men, they are very dangerous. Do not confront them. Get the boy out, then call police. I drove home in a daze, my mind trying to make sense of it all. David had died when he was 25. If Ryan was 19 now, that meant. I did the math. David would have been 20 when Ryan was born. It was possible, entirely possible. Why hadn't the mother told us? Why hadn't David known? At home, I tore through David's old room, which I'd left mostly untouched after his death. There had to be something, some clue. In the closet, I found boxes of his things from college. Photos, mostly. David with his arms around friends. David at parties. David at football games. And then I found it. A photo from what looked like a spring formal. David in a suit, his arm around a pretty girl with long dark hair. On the back, in David's handwriting, Junior Spring Formal with Sarah Mitchell, April 2005. Sarah Mitchell. Ryan Mitchell. My hands were trembling as I pulled out my laptop and searched for Sarah Mitchell in Ohio. There were dozens, but I filtered by age and location. One profile matched, Sarah Mitchell, now Sarah Crawford, living in Columbus. Her profile picture showed her with 2 daughters, both young, no mention of a son, no mention of Ryan. I clicked on her photos, scrolling back through years of posts, and there, buried in albums from 5 years ago, I found pictures of a teenage boy, Ryan. The same face from Rosa's photo, just younger. The posts were sparse. Ryan at graduation, Ryan's birthday, but nothing recent, nothing after about 3 years ago. In the comments on one old post, someone had written, "Sorry to hear about Ryan's troubles, hope he's doing better." Sarah had replied, "Thank you, we're praying for him." My heart sank. What troubles? What had happened to this boy? I looked at the clock. 6:45 p.m. I had to leave now if I wanted to reach the Riverside Motel by 8 p.m. The drive to Highway 52 took 40 minutes. The Riverside Motel was exactly as I'd imagined it, a rundown single-story building with peeling paint and flickering neon, only 3 cars in the parking lot. I pulled in at 7:52 p.m., my palms sweating on the steering wheel. Room 114 was on the far end. The curtains were drawn, but I could see light around the edges. I sat in my car, trying to figure out what to say. How do you tell a 19-year-old boy that you're his grandmother? That the men he's about to meet are drug dealers who might kill him? At 7:58, a black SUV pulled into the lot. 2 men got out, both wearing jeans and leather jackets. They looked exactly like what they were, criminals. They walked toward room 114, knocked twice, and waited. The door opened. A young man stood there, backlit from inside. Even from this distance, I could see he was thin, nervous. He said something I couldn't hear. One of the men laughed and clapped him on the shoulder. This was it. I had to move now. I got out of my car and walked straight toward them, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might burst. "Ryan?" I called out. "Ryan Mitchell?" All 3 of them turned to look at me. The men's expressions shifted from surprise to suspicion. Ryan just looked confused. "Who the hell are you?" one of the men growled. I ignored him and focused on Ryan. Up close, the resemblance to David was even more striking. He had the same hazel eyes, the same slight gap between his front teeth. My son's face, young again, looking at me with bewilderment. "Ryan, my name is Dorothy Patterson. I'm your grandmother. Your father was David Patterson. He died 15 years ago, before he knew about you." Ryan's face went pale. "What? How did you—" "Hey, lady, you need to leave." The taller of the 2 men stepped forward, his hand moving to his belt. I pulled out my phone, holding it up so they could see the screen. "I've already called the police. They're on their way." I told them about the car loaded with methamphetamine, about your plan to use this boy as a drug mule across state lines. "They'll be here in minutes." It was a bluff. I hadn't called anyone yet. But my voice didn't shake, and something in my face must have convinced them. "Shit." The shorter man grabbed his partner's arm. "Dude, we gotta go. Now." They ran for their SUV. Tires squealed as they tore out of the parking lot, leaving Ryan and me standing there in the harsh fluorescent light. Ryan stared at me, his face a mask of shock and confusion. "Who are you really? What's going on? Can we go inside and talk? Please? I promise I'll explain everything." He hesitated, then nodded and stepped back to let me in. The motel room was depressing, all brown paneling and threadbare carpet. Ryan sat on the edge of the bed while I took the single chair. For a long moment, we just looked at each other. "Your father was my son," I said softly. "David Patterson. He died in a car accident in March of 2010. He was 25. I didn't know about you, Ryan. If I had, I would have. I would have been there. Your whole life. I would have been there. Tears were streaming down his face now. My mom told me my dad died before I was born. She said he was just some guy she dated in college. She said she never even told him she was pregnant because they'd already broken up. Did she tell you his name? She said it was David. That's all. Just David. I tried to find him once, when I was 16, but there are a lot of Davids out there. Your last name is Mitchell. That's your mother's maiden name? He nodded. She got married when I was 3. Her husband, Paul, he was okay at first. But then they had 2 daughters, and everything changed. I was in the way. They tried, I guess. But I always felt like I didn't belong. When I turned 18, Paul sat me down and said maybe it was time I found my own place. So I did. Oh, Ryan, my heart broke for this boy, for the childhood he'd had without a father, without grandparents who could have loved him. I've been on my own for a year now, working at a warehouse, barely making rent. Then these guys, Marcus and Tommy, they started coming around, said they could help me make real money, said all I had to do was drive a car to Phoenix, deliver it to an address. $5,000 cash. I knew it was probably illegal, but I was so desperate, He covered his face with his hands. God, I'm so stupid. You're not stupid. You're 19 and alone, and they took advantage of that. But Ryan, listen to me. That wasn't just any delivery. They were using you to transport drugs. Crystal meth. If you'd been caught, you'd be facing years in prison. And if you delivered it, I thought of Rosa's warning. They might have killed you to eliminate the witness. He looked up at me, his face stricken. How did you know? How did you find me? I told him the whole story. About Tom's death, about the post office, about Rosa and the burritos, about overhearing the men in the bathroom, about the photograph and the Facebook search and driving here tonight. When I finished, Ryan was shaking his head in disbelief. So a cleaning lady who you buy burritos for, she saved my life? She did, and now we need to call the police for real this time. Those men are still out there. Ryan gave them descriptions, details about how Marcus and Tommy had recruited him, where they'd met before. While we waited for the police, I showed him pictures of David on my phone. Photos I'd carried with me for 15 years, unable to delete them, unable to let go. That's him? Ryan touched the screen gently. That's my dad? That's him. You have his smile. His eyes, even the way you tilt your head when you're thinking, that's pure David. The police arrived 20 minutes later. Ryan told them everything he knew. It turned out Marcus and Tommy were part of a larger drug trafficking operation the DEA had been investigating for months. Ryan's information helped them make several arrests that night. Detective Sarah Chen, the lead investigator, pulled me aside before she left. Mrs. Patterson, what you did tonight was incredibly brave and incredibly foolish. You could have been killed. I know, but he's my grandson. I just found him. I wasn't going to lose him. She smiled. For what it's worth, you saved his life. If he'd driven that car, he'd either be in federal prison or dead. These guys don't leave loose ends. After the police left, Ryan and I sat in that dingy motel room and talked until sunrise. He told me about his childhood, about feeling like he never quite fit anywhere, about dropping out of community college because he couldn't afford it, about the warehouse job that barely paid enough to cover his rent and food. I told him about David, about what a good person he'd been, how much he'd loved life, how devastated I'd been when I lost him. I told him about Tom, about our life together, about the hole they'd both left in my heart. I'm sorry I couldn't be there for you, I said, my voice breaking. If I'd known, it's not your fault, Mom should have told David, or told me more about him. But she was young and scared, and I guess she thought she was doing the right thing. Do you want to have a relationship with her still? He shrugged. I don't know. Maybe someday. Right now it's complicated, but I'd like to know you, if that's okay. I'd like to have a grandmother. I reached across and took his hand, this boy who was a stranger and family all at once. I'd like that too. Very much. The next morning, I drove Ryan to my house. He'd been staying at that motel for a week, having been evicted from his apartment when he couldn't make rent. Everything he owned fit in 2 duffel bags. "You can stay in David's room," I said, opening the door to show him. "It's yours now." Ryan stood in the doorway, looking at the posters on the walls, the trophies on the shelves, the life frozen in time. "Are you sure?" "I'm sure." It's time this room was lived in again. Over the following weeks, we built a relationship slowly, carefully. Ryan got a new job at a local hardware store, something with better pay and benefits. I taught him to cook the meals David had loved. We looked through photo albums together, and I told him stories about his father. I introduced him to Tom's brother, Uncle Bill, and his family. They welcomed Ryan with open arms, thrilled to discover this unexpected addition to our family. Holidays wouldn't be so lonely anymore. And I made sure Ryan came with me to the post office every Tuesday and Thursday. I wanted him to meet Rosa, to thank her himself. The first time he saw her, pushing her cleaning cart down the hallway, he froze. Then he walked up to her and said, "Mrs. Rosa, I'm Ryan. I'm the boy you saved." Rosa's eyes filled with tears. She cupped his face in her work-worn hands. "You are alive. You are safe. Gracias a Dios." Ryan pulled an envelope from his pocket. "This is from both of us, Dorothy and me." Inside was $5,000. The amount he would have been paid for that drug run, earned instead through honest work over 3 months, with me matching it dollar for dollar. "For your grandson," Ryan said. "For his health, for his future." Rosa tried to refuse, but we insisted. "You gave me back my grandson," I said. "Let us help yours." She held the envelope to her chest and wept. That was 8 months ago. Ryan is enrolled in community college now, studying business administration. He wants to open his own hardware store someday. He lives with me, and my house feels like a home again, filled with the sounds of life. Music playing, doors opening and closing, laughter at the dinner table. I still bring Rosa burritos every Tuesday and Thursday. But now Ryan comes with me, and often we all sit together in the break room, sharing food and conversation. Rosa's grandson had his surgery. He's doing well. She shows us pictures on her phone, her face glowing with grandmother's pride. "I almost didn't say anything that day," Rosa confessed once. "I thought maybe I was wrong. Maybe I should mind my own business. But then I thought, what if I say nothing and something bad happens? I could not live with that." "Thank God you spoke up," I said. "Thank God you cared enough to get involved." She smiled, that gentle smile I'd come to love. "You taught me that, Dorothy. Every Tuesday, every Thursday, you saw me. You treated me like I mattered. So many people, they look right through me. But you saw me. That kindness, it made me feel brave. It made me want to help when I could." I think about that conversation often. How the smallest acts of kindness create ripples we can't see. How buying a $5 burrito twice a week led to saving my grandson's life. How treating someone with dignity and respect gave them the courage to speak up when it mattered most. I think about how close I came to losing Ryan before I ever knew he existed. How easily I could have missed Rosa's warning, dismissed it as none of my business, gone home that night instead of racing to that motel. But I didn't. And now I have this beautiful second chance, this unexpected gift of family. I get to know my grandson. I get to watch him build a life, make choices, become the man his father never got to be. David would be so proud of him. I know this in my bones. And somehow, somewhere, I believe he knows. I believe he's watching over both of us. I'm 63 now. My life didn't turn out the way I planned. I lost my husband, lost my son, spent years drowning in grief and loneliness. I'm not wealthy. I work part-time at a post office because I have to, not because I want to. But I'm not alone anymore. I have Ryan. I have Rosa's friendship. I have purpose again. And I learned something precious. You never know whose life you're touching. That person you barely notice, the one you show a small kindness to, they might be the one who saves you right back. They might be the one who gives you the greatest gift you've ever received. So I tell everyone who'll listen, be kind. Pay attention. See the people around you. Really see them. That barista, that janitor, that clerk at the grocery store, they're not invisible. They're people with stories, with struggles, with the capacity to change your life in ways you can't imagine. Because kindness isn't just about the giving, it's about creating connections, building a web of human compassion that catches us when we fall. Rosa caught me. I'd been catching her, in my small way, for months, and together, we caught Ryan. That's how it works. That's how we survive in this hard world. Not by looking out only for ourselves, but by looking out for each other. Even when it's inconvenient, even when it's scary, even when we're not sure it'll make a difference. It makes a difference. Every single time. Trust me, I know.